Guys, what is up? And Shadolance back for another review. Today I'm going to be doing the brand new released L115A2 Arctic Wolf on the day of its release. You should be seeing it the night of its release, or maybe the next day. So I'm going to hop straight into the stats. We're seeing a damage of 100, a portability of 46, rate of fire of 10, accuracy of 91, and recoil of 65. This is basically an L115A2. At the time, it doesn't tank nearly as bad as that gun, but I would guess that's just because of its release. If it actually stays this way, it's actually going to be quite a formidable weapon. It performs a whole lot like the KNT-308 in my opinion. It's a very powerful rifle at the time, at least for right now, and it seems to pretty much make all the quickscope shots that you want it to. I'm not particularly good with the L11 series, so I'm not very good at quickscoping with them. They seem to be weird with quickscoping, like they have a little bit of a delay, but these also seem to be more accurate, like the actual bullet seems to hit more often than not. Similar to the rest of the L9, L11 series, that whole cousin variant and family series, so there's a ton of weapons in that series, so I'm not really going to go into that. So the damage is quite good. The portability of 46 is 1 point higher than the basic L115A2. I'm just going to keep calling it the L11 or the Arctic Wolf variant. The rate of fire is 10 on both weapons, the accuracy is 91 on both weapons, and the recoil doesn't really matter, but it's 65 on both weapons just for the reference. The ammo capacity is 5 of 15 on both weapons, so you have a total of 20 shots. The basic L11 is 1400 GP for a day and approximately 7000 GP for 7 days. And the GP cost for the Arctic Wolf variant is about 9,000 GP for 7 days, clocking out at about 8,800, so that's kind of expensive. And it's really not so much better than the L115A2 that I would actually necessarily go for this, especially considering it's also much higher rank. It's, I believe, a Captain 5 weapon, so it's quite a bit up there. You can put a magazine and a suppressor on it, which is very, very nice. You can do that to both variants of the weapon. Keep in mind there are also the L115A3 variants that have been released, which I also called. If you remember back in my update, I told you these weapons were coming out, and I was right. And so was UCD for that matter. We both brought this stuff up, so yeah, we were both right. But anyway, it was actually from an old poll that we knew about it so far beforehand. Cousin variants of this gun include the entire L9 series, theoretically the S58 musket because it is a variant of the L115A3 when forged. Then there is the brand new L115A3 Gile, the basic L115A3, and then there's also the L115A2 and the Arctic Wolf variant. The L9 series include the basic L9, the L9 Gile, L9 Arctic Wolf, L9 Super Magnum and Black Magnum, and Holiday Wolf. So there's a lot of different variants. Some people go so far as to say the KNT-308 is a variant of the L9 because of its similar appearance. I personally don't include it in that series, but some people do. All of these weapons are bolt action, including the S58 musket, so that's just... Once again, the L115A2 is also quite a high-ranked weapon. It is a First Lieutenant 3 weapon, so nowadays not quite as high-ranked, but compared to the original kind of when it was released, that was a very, very high rank. Not too many people carried around the weapon. Most people still prefer the L9 just due to the scope and due to the typical appeal to the gun. Very low rank, one-shot kill, and pretty consistent with quickscoping, so that's why it was such a popular weapon. The L115A2 is very, very similar. It tends to have a smaller spread overall than the L9 variants. However, most people still prefer the L9. Statistically, I know it doesn't make sense, but just due to the small perks, if you play with both weapons, you'll see why most people typically take the L9 over. It's very hard to explain, but you really just got to know your guns, and that's the most important part. It does feature the same muzzle brake that the L115A2 regular does have, so that is... Once again, doesn't really mean anything, it's just kind of there at the end. Typically it implies that you can't have a silencer, like the DSR Tactical and the WA 2000 Tactical, but in this case it still allows you to have a silencer. If I had to make a recommendation, I would not put it on, because then it would really, really hinder your chance of getting a one-shot kill, especially at longer ranges. Tanker vests will almost always tank this, they will almost never get one-shot killed. The L9 is known for being able to occasionally one-shot a tanker or heavy vest. It's very rare, but they can possibly do it. But if you put a suppressor on either weapon, the L11 series or the L9 series, it will completely destroy your chances of that possibly happening. So just keep that in mind. If I really had to make a recommendation, I would use it once to try out the gun. If you're particularly good with it, then obviously power to you. But I don't personally find the weapon intriguing enough to make myself actually want to go out of my way to use it as much as I possibly can. I would stick with the L9 series most of the time, considering that I own most of the series. From the Arctic Wolf, the Black Magnum, I have the Super Magnum in my inbox, the basic L9, and the Holiday Wolf I have, and the Gile for that matter. I think I actually do have every variant. So I typically stick with my L9 series because I'm more familiar with it, but As far as magazine, obviously the extended magazine 2 is more useful for quick scoping. I'm not using it in the review for the purpose of the review to show you guys how the gun is just as it is. The Arctic Wolf is well known as the Arctic Wolf. The L9 Arctic Wolf is the is the NX variant, and the L115A2 is actually a GP variant. Personally, I think that's better, and here's the reason. The Arctic Wolf camo is really only useful on 2 or 3 maps, Cold Seed, Snow Valley, and maybe one other if you're thinking camouflage-wise. But the Gile is actually more useful on others, so I actually consider the L9 Gile to be better, and in fact, statistically, after you customize it, the L9 Gile is better than the Arctic Wolf. Most people tend to prefer it over that, so even if you get it out of the MSG, I would highly suggest it's actually worth renewing. It performs on par and better than standard NX weapons, which is very, very nice. I don't know if that's true about the L115A2, but I typically find it to be so. You'll also see me using the L115A3, the NX standard weapon, in this gameplay. Personally, it's a hit or miss weapon. You're either really good with it or you're really bad with it. It varies by game with me pretty heavily. In some cases, I will be good with it depending on the map. Junk Flea is not one of my stronger suits. If it's a one-on-one, I will typically carry the weapon because it's more comfortable for me to use. Very fast draw speed, very fast reload. That's one thing that the L11 Arctic Wolf does not sponsor, though. It does not have the super, super fast draw speed or reload. It's actually quite slow, in my opinion. So it's cool looking, but it's pretty slow. So it's not something you really want to focus on for competitive gameplay. The L96A1 is going to be a little bit better off for you for that. Even the L115A2, I suppose it's about the same. The animation is just different. So while I think it looks quite cool and aesthetically it's very nice, it doesn't really matter in competitive gameplay. So that's my take on it. But thank you guys for watching this review. I'm about out of time for today. Thank you guys for watching. Shadolance out.